as she said, I'm Michael Gill. So I have been working on a tutorial on how to build Chrome extensions in Bildr. So today I want to kind of take you through what I've done, how it works, how I built it, ideas for how you could extend it, all of that. But the goal is, as Cora said, we'll have the tutorial with all the videos out, and then I'll talk to Mark, but also want to figure out how we'll maybe share the project out for people that want to take that and extend it and so on. So I'll start first with what I built and then talk about how I built it. So I built this web clipper extension. And the goal was I wanted to create something that you could kind of use to explore the few different built-in actions in Bildr for creating Chrome extensions, but then also extend them with third-party APIs and so on. So I just clicked in my browser this little icon with the scissors. That's my little emoji for this Chrome extension. And what this extension does is any page that you go to, as soon as you load it, it's pulling information from the web page. So it's going to pull the title, it'll pull the description, it'll pull the URL from the page, and then it also pulls the social share image. So this is the image that would be shown anytime you share it somewhere. And then what I did was I created a way for you to save this to Airtable. So if you wanted to bookmark or clip pages to Airtable, you could do that. There's a notes field here where you could add your own notes to each bookmark that you save as well. And then I added a few other actions in there. I wanted you to be able to extend this with automations and things like that. So there's an option to send this to Zapier and send it to Integromat. I created an integration with Banner Bear where you can generate a card or an image using the information from the page that you're on. And then I also used one of the core actions to allow you to sort of move this around. So let me first kind of demo how this works, and then I'll talk about how I build it. So I have a Airtable base. Let me clear out this record here so it's empty. So I have an Airtable base. This is for storing bookmarks. I've got a page title field, URL description, image, and notes. And some of you may know No Code Coffee was a newsletter, no code newsletter that I did for a while. And back in those days, I was using the Airtable web clipper. And if I had the ability to make something this quick and easy, I totally would have created a custom one. But anyway, this pulls this information. I'm going to type in my notes here. So I want to save this and say, great visual development tool. And this is sort of I want to save this for later. So I hit save to Airtable. It tells me saving and then saved, and then it drops it into my Airtable base. I can go to another site. So let's go to Stripe, for example. Open up my extension. You see it pulls different set of information with the image for Stripe. Let's say great for payment processing, and save that to Airtable. And now when I go back to Airtable, I see that it's added my record as well. So it's got my links in here. It's got the images that I'm pulling from each site along with my notes. So if I come back over here, the other features that I added were the send to Zapier and send to Integromat. Again, the thinking here is you want to trigger an automation to run once you clip a web page. So I can do the same thing and just hit send to Zapier. I've got my information filled out here. In Zapier, all I did was I created a step that is the webhook is the trigger. It's just a default action in Zapier. And now when I test this trigger, we'll see that it pulled in a record right now. And here's my record. So this is pulling all my information from the web page that I was on. I can see my title, description, URL, image, and my notes. And now I can continue building out this Zap using all this information that I pulled from my Chrome extension. The same thing if you're familiar with Integromat, or if you use Integromat. I've got a simple one here with one step, and it's just a webhook catcher. I'm going to say listen for new. So this is going to spin, and it's just waiting for an event to come in. Let's do Stripe for this one. So I'll click the send to Integromat. Tells me it's sending, and send. And now if I go back, I'll see I got a success message. Open this up, and I can see again my information sent from my extension in Bildr. And now I can continue to build out my scenario and use all these data points for future steps. I then added the banner bear option. So again, the concept here is I want to be able to bookmark pages, but then maybe I want to do something with those pages that I've bookmarked. You know, in the days when I was creating my daily newsletter, I would save some of this information into Airtable, and then I would kind of manually assemble it into some view that I wanted for my newsletter. But maybe you want to be able to just quickly and easily generate an image. Well, Banner Bear is a great tool for that. If you're not familiar with it, it basically lets you create a template. Let me show you an example here, 1 second. Okay, so I've got this template that I put together. It's just got a gradient image for the background, and then I've got layers of text. So I've got a layer for my page title, my URL, my description, and then an image. And I'm going to use my extension that I built with Bildr to grab all this information from my web page, and then I'm using the Banner Bear API to say, here's the info I want you to generate an image out of. So again, I'll use this page as an example. Hit generate, takes about 3 seconds, and then it shows that my image was generated. I can see a thumbnail preview of it right down here. And then I also get the URL to the image that I can then use for whatever I want. I could pop that in here. Oh, I didn't copy it. Let's go back, copy. It's not copying. What am I doing wrong? Let's do this the old-fashioned way. There we go. So there's my image that was generated, all from pulling information from the web browser. And then the last functionality that I wanted to add to this was just a way to position the extension sort of window around the web page. So I've created a settings view here. And when I click settings, I just get 4 simple buttons that I can use to move them around. So if I want this Chrome extension positioned in a different spot on the page, I've given the user the ability to do that. And then I can hit back to get back to my main view. So just kind of a simple step there, but I wanted to also show you how you could do multi-page extensions. And that's really what I've done here. So
Michael, this is so awesome. It's my first time seeing it. I'm so impressed. I'm so excited. Like, so when they go through their course, are they going to have something similar to this?
Yes. So the course takes you exactly through how I built this. It does. So the first step is sort of the saving it to Airtable. That's kind of the first piece. And let me flip over and actually show you how I laid out the course. So there's just a 1-minute intro that kind of covers what we'll build. And then the real first section is laying out the page, which I'll show you in a second inside of Bildr. And that's about 6 minutes. Then getting the info from the browser, it's about 9 minutes. And then at that step, I wanted to be able to save it to Airtable and test it before I added a bunch of other stuff. So then I kind of flip over and show you how to export it into Chrome so that you could test as you're building. And and then saving it to Airtable. So by the time you're 25 minutes in, you've got a web clipper that pulls information from the browser and saves it to Airtable.
Beautiful.
It does require a little bit of knowledge of the Airtable API. Like I don't go in depth into the Airtable API, but I know we have other tutorials and courses on that as well. I know Drew has a great Airtable pattern that's available in Bildr that you can use as well if you're not familiar with it. And you can also save it to anywhere else. If there's an API that you use and you're familiar with, it doesn't have to be Airtable. That's just the example that I went with. But yeah, by that point, 25 minutes in, you've got a web clipper in Bildr. I couldn't believe how fast it was when I did it. Like I thought I had skipped a step or something. It was kind of too quick and easy. And then I go into the other steps after that: Zapier, Integromat, Banner Bear, and settings. Altogether, it's probably 50 minutes, an hour, maybe at the most.
Okay.
So, so I'd like to show how I set this up in Bildr, if that's all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So in Bildr, now this is a 2-page app. Like I said, I wanted to keep it simple, but also show you how you could do multiple pages to kind of get your gears turning and get you thinking about how you might want to build your own Chrome extension. So I've got a simple main page here that's got 3 lines of text for my title, URL, and description. I've got a notes field. You can't see because it is empty, but there's an image field in here as well, in between those. And then the sort of action buttons down here. So if you were to look at everything from the top down to like save to Airtable, that's kind of the first step, and you've got a fully functioning Chrome extension at that point. So the way this works is all of this information gets pulled into these text fields on page load. So I've got an action on page load that just runs this flow. That is step 1, which is get the page title. And this is a new action in Bildr called Chrome extension get info from browser. And you can use this to get various types of information, but some of the default ones are like domain name, full URL, URL path, protocol, page title, and then the window height and window width. So I'm just using a stock action that is available in Bildr to pull that page title, and I set it into a variable, and then I kind of pass it to the next action. And the next action is just getting the URL, doing the same thing, and then same thing with the description. Actually, the description is a little bit different. So this one's using a custom action for the Chrome extension that will get any HTML property from a page. And so what I mean by that is if you go and inspect a page, so let's look at Bildr, for example. On most sites, you'll see these meta tags in the header of the page. And they're used for different purposes, but in this case, we've got a description and an image set of meta tags, and this is where I wanted to pull that information from. And so I'm just using this custom action to pull the description. This is the OG description or Open Graph and Open Graph image. I'm just using these meta tags to pull the image and description by specifying what's the name of the tag, what's the property, and then what's the value that I want to search. So it requires just a little bit of familiarity with how to view the source on a page and look at which tags are available. But in this case, these OG description and OG image tags, they're fairly widely used. It's like a pretty standard practice. So most sites that you go to will have these. And so I knew that I wanted to pull those. And so that's how I'm getting the description and the image using OG description and OG image. So at that point, I run an action to just display all of this. I'm pulling all these pieces from the browser, and then I'm just dropping them into variables and storing them in variables. And so the next step that runs is an action that just displays these on the page. So I'm using the element set value action and telling it which element I want to populate. So in this case, I want to populate the page title, and I'm telling it what I want to populate it with. And so I'm saying I want to populate it from a variable, and that variable is page title. So that's a little bit, detail of how this went together, but I use the same methodology pretty much for each of these items, and just kind of duplicated the functionality as I went, as you'll see in the tutorial. So that's all how this gets populated. And again, that runs on page load. So as soon as this extension gets opened up in your browser, it's going to populate that information, and that's how that works. And then for each of the buttons, save to Airtable, send to Zapier, these are just making an API call. And the API is different, obviously, for each service that you use. So I won't go into all of them, but just to give you an example of a simple one, if I look at Zapier, I had a flow that I created called send to Zapier. And inside, I'm just doing three things. So one, I'm setting the value of the button. I just wanted a little bit of user experience to change the button to say sending while it was actually sending, so the user knew something was happening. So that's all I'm doing, is changing the text on the button. And then I'm using the API endpoint action that allows me to make a call. So I'm just making a call to the Zapier webhook URL, which I got from my step one in Zapier. And then I'm just passing, I'm using the JSON object functionality to pass some variables. So I'm giving it a name title and passing the variable page title that I've stored in the previous action, and doing the same for all of these fields: URL, description, image, and my notes. So each one of these is just getting passed in that call to Zapier, and that's it. I have a timer set after that to just wait 1 second, and then it displays sent. Again, that's just kind of a visual feedback thing for the user, but it runs a success flow after that. And then lastly, on how I integrated the two pages, there are multiple ways to do this in Bildr. If you've worked in Bildr for any amount of time, you'll know you can load pages inside of other pages. You can have containers and load pages into there. There's a lot of different ways to do this. The path that I went with is I have a div here for settings. It's hidden. I'm basically just using this to load the settings into, and I'm hiding all the main content when you click the settings button. So this settings button right here has an event on it, and the flow is called go to settings. And if we look at this, I'm hiding my clipper, which is the main div, and I'm showing the settings. And then I'm opening this page into my settings div. So I'm using the action open page into container, and just using that to load the settings in. Again, lots of ways to do this. Some of the ways depend on kind of how you want to interact with the page and things like that. But since I was just putting 4 buttons in there, I went with this route.
Yeah, sorry, Michael, real quick on that. Do you think it's a good idea, like if you're just going to hide everything on a page, to just do it like put a div around all of the elements, and then it's super easy to just hide the div and that goes away, and then you can display the settings page?
Yeah, that's what I did, because I just wanted I wanted to use the easy element hide show actions to just hide all the main content and show the settings content. I'm sure, Drew or Mark probably would have some suggestions on how you could do that better. But yeah, that's the method that I use.
Okay, cool.
So let me stop there so we can get caught up on questions and comments and stuff like that.
Yeah, was there
great,
any
Michael.
part of what Michael has gone through so far that you guys have any questions on, or you'd like to look a little deeper at how he did something specifically? Feel free to chat or just chime in.
Might be good actually to show if you go to that page and click export to Chrome. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Show that little box. Because it's actually the act of exporting is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Drew. And that's a part that I thought was going to take a lot longer than it did. It was almost too easy. So on the page that is your main extension page, so this is my main page here, Clipper. Up here at the top of this panel, there's the 3 dots, and under this is page properties. So if you just click page properties, it's going to open up all your page properties on the right-hand side. And at the very bottom, we have this new button, Export Chrome Extension. So you hit this, and it loads up this window where you put in your settings. You just give it a name, a short name. The version, I think, already defaults to 1. Add a description. And then you add a homepage URL. And all I'm using in this example is my preview URL. So in Bildr, when you hit preview in the upper right and you actually run your application, it gives you a URL. I just copied that and pasted it in here. And the nice thing about that was once I exported and ran my Chrome extension, I could go into Bildr Studio, make a change, and then see it in real time. I didn't have to keep exporting or anything like that. So so that's why I use this preview URL. Once you're getting further down the road and you want to publish your Chrome extension widely, you'll want to use your production URL in Bildr. So you'll want to publish your project in Bildr and put your production URL in here. But for testing while you're building it, this was a great method. You add an icon. So I just added an image to my library, this little scissors, because I just wanted to create something quick and easy. And then on the right-hand side, there's some styling. I pretty much left this at the default, I think. I did just change the type to a floating extension. So that's why it sort of sits there, kind of detached from the side panel, but you can do left, right, top banner or bottom banner, and then kind of set the spacing how you want it to appear in the window. And then you hit export Chrome extension. Once you do that, it downloads a zip file, and all you have to do is go to where that zip file is in your downloads and double click it, and it'll open up a folder inside, and that folder is your Chrome extension application. And then you go in your browser to Chrome://extensions. There's also a way to get to it from the menu, but you just go into extensions and you hit this. You have to make sure you have developer mode toggled on. So if you don't, in the upper right, you won't see the menu. So just toggle on developer mode and then hit load unpacked, and it'll ask you where on your computer you want to pull the folder from, and you just select that unpacked, that unzipped folder that you had. And that's it. It adds it to your Chrome extensions, and then you can use it.
And one thing I would note there too, Michael, my favorite part about that process so far has been the real-time updates to the Chrome extension once that's done, right? So like once you've done it, now you can just go back into your project and change it, and it live updates in the extension as you're going. So you don't even have to go through the process again. And it's the same after you publish it to the Chrome Web Store. Your extension's living in the store, and when you hit publish on your Bildr project back to production, it updates the Chrome extension without going through the process in Chrome Web Store again. So that for me was really, really nice, because I could just manipulate it as I wanted, fix bugs, do whatever I need to do. and I don't have to go through any more process.
I agree. That was a nice surprise as I was building out my first one, because I just assumed I had to keep exporting it. So I think the second time I exported it, and then I was like, I wonder if I could just, and so I just went in and made a change. Like, let's say I want to, move the Zapier button to the top or something. I just went in and made a change, and then it updated live. I don't know why it's not now, actually. That's odd.
Dim or die, right? Try refreshing. Maybe the resonance didn't push it out or something.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, I'm on the wrong version. That's why.
All right. Well, that'll do it.
Yeah. I
have
have
multiple exports.
Yeah, I created 2 versions because I do, like, when I do a tutorial, I build it all out first and have like the finished version, and then I build it while I'm recording it. But that way I'm not like trying to figure out what I want to do while I'm building it. So anyway, I have 2 different versions open of my extension. But yeah, it was updating in real time, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, that's super easy. And then I would just go in and make all my changes and see it update live. So it was really helpful, for sure.
Yeah, great job. So I do have a question. You guys were talking about like when you're actually ready for it to go live. So right now you're using the preview link. So everyone, when you build something and you're actually ready to look at it, the live preview is where you'll go at the top, and you have to set a home page. So what Michael did is he set this Clipper page as his home page, and then that will generate like a whole subdomain for you that you can use as the URL for your Chrome extension while you're testing. Then when you're actually ready to push this thing out into the world in a real way, you're going to publish this to probably a production environment, and that will give you your production URL, which you can either use a custom domain or you can use a free Bildr subdomain. And then what would you do, Michael? You would come back here, go back into the page properties, click the button again, and then swap out that URL with the production URL, and then export that. And
Exactly.
then do one final upload to the Chrome store. And then that would be the one you have live.
Exactly. So that's a great point, Cora. The only time you need to export again is if you want to change any of the info in this view here. So if you want to change the name or description or the URL, or maybe how it appears on the page, then you would come back here and make your changes and hit export. Apart from that, you just make your changes, and when you publish to your URL, it would update in the extension as well.
Okay, and so what that means is once you have it live in production, if you're making any changes, you're just changing your dev environment, right? So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, all you would need to do is once you're ready to have those changes live in your Chrome extension, you would just publish to production, and that would automatically update the Chrome extension that's associated to the production URL.
Exactly.
Okay. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Actually, what I did was I after I realized like how I would approach it, what I ended up doing was I exported one with the preview, then I went ahead and published to production, and then exported again with the production, renamed them as I did it, like one had the production name on it, the other one had dev on it, and then I put both of those into Chrome, and then I could just like test the dev one in real time and then hit publish when I got it all fixed and ready, and I didn't have to do any more uploading after that, or exporting.
That's a really good idea. Okay, did everyone catch that? So you would export one with the preview URL, and then you would export another one with the production URL, and you would just have both of those running, and you would be able to still use the preview one, and once you're testing that one, have the changes update.
One other thing too on this, like this is a really common use case for extension, right? Is you're pulling stuff off of the page and you're storing it somewhere. You could also store it in the Bildr database built in. You can also add, because these are full-on Bildr pages, you can put authentication in front of this, so the user has to sign up for your service before they can do it. And then if you're storing data, You could store that data specific to that user. You can take this as far as you want to go. And then that's also why in the export, there's a homepage URL and then the main page of the extension URL, because you might also have another page in your project called home or homepage. And that's the like public facing website of your project, but it could be anything. And when you upload that to Chrome's web store, that homepage URL is also going to be listed there as part of your listing. And so you'll want to probably make, even if it's not a builder, maybe you've already got a project up and you have a site built in Webflow or something. And so you've already got that part done. So you might actually point to something not builder as that homepage. And then the main page URL is the project here, but it totally depends on how you want to approach it. So I just wanted to be clear, like this use case is like, you could almost do this. It's fast enough to where, like, I think we're going to see a lot of people just exporting extensions for their own use and not even caring about it's not even about the other side of it. Like, I would just do it for my own purpose for this one thing, because it only takes me, 20 or 30 minutes and I'm done. And then one last thing on that too. I don't know, Michael, did you want to talk about any of the advanced stuff, or do you want me to go high level on the customization and code of that?
Yeah, I'll touch on that real quick. While you guys were talking I found my other project. It was in my other window over here. So anyway, I just wanted to show that now when you're in the right project, you can just change something in real time and see it. Oh my God, is it not going to do it now? There it goes. See it update in real time while you're working. So I have too many Builder too many Builder windows open right now and got lost. But yeah, so on the customization real quick. So let me go into just a new flow and show you this real quick. Just create a test flow. So as I mentioned, there are these default or included Chrome extension actions if you just type Chrome into the search in the action window. And you'll see the couple that are here and a description of how they work. There's this custom one as well for scraping from a page. Mark created that actually, so I'll let him talk about kind of what he did with that one. But as a reminder, as with any action, you can go into action types here. And if I go to the action types window and just type in Chrome, I can see the existing ones. And this is usually what I do when it comes to customization. I'll just go to one that is a good starting point and duplicate it. And then that allows me to come in and modify it how I want without messing with the included one. So I can do that. I can add functions if I want to as well. I can change the arguments that are input in Builder. So in the actual panel that slides out when you select that action, it asks for certain fields for you to populate. Just like with any action, you can customize that so that you can take certain types of inputs. But the same applies to the functions as well. So if I click over to functions and search Chrome. Sorry, Zoom is killing my the screen share is killing my Mac here. I can see the existing functions and do the same thing. So I can duplicate any one of these functions. And then that gives me the ability to go in, and if I know JavaScript, I can customize this function to do whatever I want. So I could grab a completely different set of information from the web page. I could do stuff in the browser level. There's a lot that you could do, anything basically that you could do with JavaScript, you could do in here and have a action in Chrome trigger that. So a lot of ways to extend it in that sense. And Mark, I'll let you kind of fill in any gaps I missed.
Keep that open real quick. So there's the way, I just wanted to describe at a high level for the programmers in the room, because I know there are some coders in the room. The way that the Chrome extension actually operates. It's effectively a wrapper that is a messaging service between the Builder flow and action queue that's like the core execution engine of a Builder project. So it's a messaging service between that and the browser itself. And what it allows you to do through that messaging service is actually inject custom JavaScript into the page. And then that JavaScript can do whatever it wants to do, right? So anything that can be done on the page can be done with that JavaScript. Then at the end of that JavaScript, there's effectively like kind of like a hook back that sends the results, whatever the results are, the response output of that JavaScript, which could just be like success, or it could be like the actions that Michael was showing, where it actually returns a value like the title of the page or this OG information. But whatever that response is, it hooks that back through the messaging service, back to the Bildr queue in the core, and provides that response. And then that's where inside of that action where you saw Michael type in the variable name that he wants the response to go into, and then trigger the next action or flow to run. That's the service that's doing that back and forth. And so what that effectively means is, while we're offering these couple of, sort of like basic actions so that you can just get out of the gate, really, if you're a JavaScript developer, this allows you to do anything you want. And it's relatively simple. If you come in and look at how this works, you're basically injecting any JavaScript you want. So it's extremely powerful. That other action that Michael was referring to, we're working on it. It's not quite ready yet. I have a couple of developers building it out. It's a general scraper. So that one goes like a whole other level, where you can effectively say, like, I want this selector, which is sort of like maybe like a tag name or something, where you say, I want anything that is an image tag. And then you can filter it by saying, or maybe I want anything that's a link, and only ones that contain twitter.com. And that thing goes and basically parses the entire page, finds all the things that match, and returns them to your Bildr project as a JSON array, which then you can use for like setting a grid or sending it over through an API and creating records in another service, whatever you want. So I'm excited about that general scraper, because I think that's where the next level of power is going to come from. That should be out next week. It's actually already, like, it already works. We just have a couple of things we want to finish up, and I need to clean up all the input arguments and all that. So we should launch that next week as well. I think that was probably it for the for the advanced stuff, but it's really unlimited. The one thing I would say is the Chrome Web Store process for accepting extensions is extremely straightforward. Like, it's complicated in Google's method, how they always do things kind of complicated when you're working with their stuff, but the process itself is fast and easy. It's like once you submit it, you're going to get a response within, like, typically I was getting 12 to 24 hours max. Sometimes it was like 5 hours later, I would get an acceptance or a failed. I did note that they don't even seem to care what's actually happening in your project. So like the display itself, I don't think they're clicking on anything inside of there, because the first time I got it through, I didn't realize I had an issue, and I was actually like wiping some stuff off the page, and it was literally just a blank white page. Like, so it loaded the extension and it did nothing, and they accepted it into the store. Like, you could go install it in your browser and it didn't do anything. So I don't think they care. The only thing they're looking at is what security permissions are you asking for? And by default, we're not asking for much in here. So you can do all this stuff without asking for things like cookie information and that. But if you want to get into those levels, we will be adding permission options for literally everything you can get access to. If you want to get permission options for things before we offer it in the UI, just send us a chat. It's really easy to do. There's a manifest file that's exported, and that if you look in the code that's exported, and you can literally just change it. You can just go in there and add whatever you want, and it'll extend it however you want. So in typical Bildr fashion, there's no limits here. Like, we just give you access to, we're just making it easier to do this stuff, but you have full access to everything once it's done.
So we did have a question from Michael Collins, who was asking us to chat a little bit more about the permissions toggle and the export. Can one of you take us through that and let us know what are the permissions that are currently there?
Yeah, I can talk about those permissions. And then maybe we could also have Michael open up uh, the manifest file. So the only one that we're offering there, so I'll go a little technical on, I had to go learn how, because I built these pages and I also wrote the blog post explaining all of Google's like manifest file stuff, the way that it works. So I went and read all about it and how they operate. Basically, they have this thing in the JSON file. It's called the manifest.json file, and that gets exported. And in that manifest file, there's a permissions property. It's on the right side over there. The default one, it says active tab. Active tab means that you have access to anything on the currently active tab in the browser. But you can specify any tab, and then that opens up additional possibilities. So you can go like do things across tabs. So by default, we're only doing active tab. And what that basically ensures is right now, it ensures whatever you export and try to submit to the web store is likely to get accepted. You know, it just makes sure that was our main goal here. But you can go into this JSON and you can change those permissions. And in the blog post that Cora just chatted in there, I actually link out to where all those permissions are. So you can come change these manually if you want to. You can add whatever you want in there, and it describes on Google's documentation how to do what to add for which pieces. I think all the use cases, I've talked to, I don't know, 20 people in the last 6 months or so about the things they're wanting to build in Chrome extensions. I haven't run across anyone who really needs much more than active tab. The only one that I've seen was the access to some data stuff. So that's why we added if you go back, Michael, into Bildr again, there's the one where you can get access to the local storage on the browser session. But basically anything you toggle on in permissions, my extension, I toggled that on just to make sure that it wasn't going to like trip up their process, even though I didn't need it. And it didn't add any time or anything like that to getting accepted. They didn't have any issues with it. So I'm really comfortable with that one. But if you want to do any other ones, you can add them manually. That's the only thing I know of that could trip you up in getting accepted into the Chrome Web Store though. That being said, if it's just something for your personal use, you can add whatever permissions you want because it's manually installed. They don't care at all.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned earlier, Mark, the sort of concept of creating extensions that you might just use yourself and never put out. And that's probably what I'm most excited about because like, you know, just as I think about like my daily work process and those kinds of things, like having the ability to have extensions that are open on the page and do things that are specific to me that nobody else may care about is pretty amazing. And the fact that I can create those so quickly in Bildr, I'm excited about that. So my gears are turning.
I like the concept too of, we have a similar concept for SaaS in general, where we think a really valuable thing is that everyone should just sort of like own their own destiny to whatever they're wanting to consume. Like, so maybe Michael creates something that's really great for himself. And instead of going and having that as an extension that someone installs on the web store, other developers, other Bildr developers and visual developers can just go use that pattern, bring it in and just use it. You know what I mean? So it's a different mindset. We kind of see SaaS long-term as the same thing. All of this stuff just gets commoditized at some point when there's enough of these out there. And if you're making things to where, you know, you really can, and once you understand all these pieces, in 10 minutes, I could go produce probably what Michael did here on the Airtable one, right? And Michael could probably do it in 10 minutes now too, right? Now that he's done it. And so when you get it to that level, all this stuff just becomes commoditized. And I think that's the future of all this web development. That's how we go. And then one last thing on the multi-tab access, totally agree on I'm not sure who wrote that, but yeah, for sure on the multi-tab access. And then there's one more piece that I forgot to mention in that we'll be adding a setting for this where there's another type of extension where it's the default tab extension. And I totally missed adding a toggle for that here, but it's pretty easy to set, and I'll probably go add it to my blog post because that's another type of extension where when you click the plus tab, it takes over the default tab area, you know, so it's like the main thing. And that's a way to another really nice thing to have, where you rather than have, because you may not need to even be pulling something from the browser. It's really just you want this as your default, right? And it can do anything you want.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say, I'd love to hear from Edmund. I think he and Michael Collins are talking about the same thing, but it's kind of the concept of, if my options are to go pay somebody else maybe a monthly fee for a small tool that does something I need, or I can create one myself that's exactly what I need and has nothing else, no extras or fluff that I don't need. That's a pretty enticing concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that what you meant, Edmund?
Yeah, so for Lee and I, we're working on LaunchDash, and we've always wanted to build a Chrome extension. The way you presented, like you said, we could literally have this running for ourselves, without maybe even submitting it to the Chrome store. But the way you showed, like the examples that you have, it's like boiling water. You'd have to be really bad to mess this one up. So we feel that with what you've shown, like, we were never going to pay someone to build an extension for us. We were just figuring out how, right? And so, I'll be honest, we built the first version of our app in Bubble, and now we're building the Chrome extension in Bildr. I'm laughing with my co-founder. It's inevitable that we rebuild everything in Bildr. But yeah, so we were never planning to pay somebody. We literally wanted to do this for ourselves. And it's kind of akin to just building a process to manage your own personal life. But now we're doing it in a small SaaS, application that we're going to make available to other people. So this is perfect for us. Thank you for doing this. You're like opening up another world, another Thanos ring on the hand right there.
I love it.
Like that.
I like that. I don't know, Thanos, though, I guess. Thank you, Edmund. That's awesome. And there was one other thing too I'll mention. Cora and the team kind of hate it when I do this, but I always like to just throw it out there what we do. So we're working on, when you click the export button, you'll have options for Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and Edge. And I'm really excited because I'm excited because Safari is doing mobile, right? They're going to do iOS Safari. And
wait a second.
I haven't tried it yet. They haven't launched it. Okay. Safari hasn't launched that yet, but I really am excited about, I want to see how it works to have an extension on mobile. Nobody's ever done it before, right? So I want to see how that works, but we can't even test that one yet. But the rest of it, the reason it's going to work is because they basically consolidated everything. The manifest files are basically the same, and so there's really like very small variations across them. So we don't actually have to change much to make it all work. The trick is going to be where I don't know yet is like get simple things like getting the title, getting those kind of things are going to be the same across them because it's all Chromium based. But when you're wanting to do things that are actually like asking the browser to do a thing, that's where I think it might be different. So we'll see if we have to have some custom actions specific for each browser, but the actual export process should basically be the same.
Hey, yay. Go ahead, Edmund. I just want to say we are getting close to time, but I'm down to hang out for a little bit longer and keep the conversation going. But if anyone needs to jump off, go ahead. Thank you so much for coming. Like, wonderful. And I will upload this to the community later if you want to catch up on anything that you might miss from now to the end of the call.
Yeah, that was all I was going to ask for, because I have to do two things. I've been kind of multitasking and watching Michael present and all, but I have to do two things. I'm going to probably do his tutorial first, then I'm going to watch this again, because some of this may be over my head, but I know his tutorials are always like straight to the point. Like you get that fire up front. So I'm probably going to do the tutorial. But yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect. First thing I'll do to play with it for myself is to build something for my book club Locus, where you can just go to Amazon, go to the book, and then just pull the book and the link and the tags and throw it into Airtable. The cool thing about this is that like, I really don't like Chrome, right? But I'll only use Chrome if like the utility is such a high value thing that I can't like go away. And then when, Mark starts talking about allowing us to extend it into Safari, like it's done, it's over. Thank you so
I'm
much,
using
guys.
Safari only right now. So I have Chrome over there just for having Chrome available for when I need it, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But I really only use Safari now. I bought a new iMac, one of the new iMacs, and I was just like, I'm just going to go all Safari and see how it goes. I'm loving it so far. The only thing I don't like is if you have to debug some things. If you're not debugging anything, then it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm liking Safari a lot.
Yeah. Guys, this is going to be a big deal because so many people use Chrome, and with what Michael showed, like you can build this extension and then you don't necessarily have to submit it. You could build your own extensions for yourself. But then if you want to really get serious, yes, you have to go through a process to submit it to the Chrome store. But thank you so much. I think people are going to build businesses on top of this. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome,
Awesome.
Edmund. It makes
Thanks,
us
Edmund.
happy to share this stuff with y'all. Big time. I did want to chat a little bit about the some of the comments that were made real quick when we were talking about SaaS, right? And how some people might not hire other people if they can just build it themselves. So I would love to talk, like, whoever has input on that, if you think that that's valid, if that's something to be concerned about, or if you would still be willing to pay someone else to do something. Because I think what it does is it just opens the arena for you doing more of what you want to do and then hiring out the stuff that doesn't really matter. Like, I don't know that I would build one myself, but I'd be happy to pay someone to be like, hey, these are the things I need. Can you make this for me? And like, but some people are very technical and they want to be able to do it themselves and have that control. So I'm curious kind of where you guys are on that spectrum.
I'll throw one thing in there. Y'all know Kieran on Twitter, maybe, if anybody's in the no-code community on Twitter. Yesterday, or maybe the day before, he put a tweet out that said, no code is not for non-technical people. It's for technical people with non-technical backgrounds. And I thought that was really well put. It's like, I think people assume they're not technical because they don't have a technical background, but I really think there's a lot more technical people in the world than think they're technical. And so I think it kind of, what I was meaning by the commodity stuff was, at some point you get enough of these components in place and enough templates in place that solve enough unique needs and that are actually usable together, to where you've reduced the barrier of technical. Like I think a lot of coders would consider me not technical, but a lot of non-coders would consider me super technical, right? So like it's just all a spectrum of knowledge, really. That's all it is. And so I don't see it as, to me, it's like, do I use a freelancer or not, is really about where can I get the most value for my time, right? So if I can do it myself in 20 minutes, that's one thing. If I can do it myself in 3 hours, that's a whole different thing, right? So it just depends on the situation. What's the outcome I'm looking for? Do I have someone who can do this for me that I trust? That's another part of it. There's a lot of problems you have to solve. Trust is a huge one to get commoditization of this stuff going. That's a big part of this. But yeah, I'll leave it there if anybody else wants to comment. I know Joe does this kind of stuff. I know Diego's in the space doing, work for others and paying other people to do it. Dan as well, Fraser as well. There's a lot of people in this room who have a ton of experience doing both sides of that, building for themselves and hiring others to build. So I'd love to hear if anybody has any comments on the differences and the struggles and all those good things.
Yeah, I was actually fully prepared to, sorry. I was fully
Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Diego, fully prepared to pay somebody to build this for us so we can focus on our main SaaS features, I think. But now I just want to give it a shot on my own just for fun.
Yep.
That's cool. Well, and you can
Yeah.
do both too, right, Joe? I mean, you could start build, get it going, and then be like, okay, for this other functionality, I really don't want to mess with going down that rabbit hole. And then you go pay someone to build in and add in what you need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like mastering anything and then have outsourcing it or delegating it.
I'll be
Yeah.
frank though, like I'll be honest, most of you have known me for years. I'm just lazy, right? And if I build, I'm only building something for myself. But one of the biggest changes in my life has been building with Lee, my co-founder on LaunchDash. And I think when you start building with other people, especially when the skill sets are different, it's helped me more than trying to like bang my head against the wall. I know I can do this. I'm just lazy. So before I pay someone, I'd rather try to build with other people because I think paying someone is not a bad thing, but to me, it's kind of a last resort. Like I'm gonna try building it with other people before I pay someone. Because if you're gonna pay someone, I think you should have got to the point where you've monetized to where you can.
Mhm. I guess maybe we're just maybe we're just building stuff not for each other. Do you know? Like we're probably building stuff that other people can't build, and those are the people that are going to be paying to use like Chrome extensions and things like that. And I guess, are people paying to use Chrome extensions, or is it really that Chrome extensions are becoming like businesses themselves, like that generate
It's
revenue?
both.
Both?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's now several Chrome extensions who've been purchased for over $1 billion now, which is crazy. Like just Chrome extensions. Honey, right? Wasn't Honey the first one, I think?
Yeah.
Where it just basically would look at the page, find any better prices or any like better prices or coupon codes to get you a better price. And I mean, you're making people money, saving people money. That's the way to do it, you know? So Chrome extension just happened to be the delivery mechanism, but it's really the business side of it doesn't really change, you know? And I think that's the part that I think it kind of to Edmund's point of saying, get yourself to a point where you've got some level of somebody wants to pay me for this thing, right? So there's kind of two modes of thought there, and it depends on where you're at in your career arc. It depends on who you are technically. It depends. There's a lot of, and what you're trying to build, how big is it, how complex is it? But some of it is, yes, I can go validate this idea in a weekend, but other projects, you just can't do that. I mean, some of these projects we've built over the years, there's no way you're doing that in less than 6 months. It's just too big of a concept, regardless of tool. It doesn't matter. That's because the tool and the actual output is not the hard part in a lot of these cases. A lot of the cases is I have to go talk to hundreds of people who have this problem and solve that problem. And maybe there's like 20 people that need to be involved in the use of this software to understand all the problems. So it's like a complex set of problems across an organization, for instance, right? So when it just depends on what you're trying to do. And in those cases, I would recommend you need to have a partner, a team who's with you long-term, and paying for that either by hiring employees or outsourcing it to an agency that you trust is the way to go there. Because if you don't have that partnership with whoever's building it, it's going to fail. It just will. I think anybody who's an agency in the room or has run agencies in the room totally understands that problem. And if you've ever been on the other side too, it's just a trust game. You have to have long-term trust if you're building complex projects. That's just what, and it doesn't matter if it's Bildr or Code or Bubble or Webflow or whatever you're building on, it makes no difference. It's a person thing, you know, it's like a human thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious how many people are going to build Chrome extensions after this chat today. Yes.
I am too.
Everybody on the call, I think.
Got one almost ready. I'm ready to launch it soon and tweet about it.
Ooh,
Do you want to tell us what it is, Drew, or you're
gonna
gonna
share?
wait?
I'm excited about this one.
I can share. It's so what it is. The Chrome extension is just like a piece of it. It's like a really simple SaaS, but it's for basically it's a watch list for OpenSea. So for buying NFTs. So as you're like going through OpenSea, you find something you like, you hit the Chrome extension, you just click the button, it adds it to your list, And then when you go to look at your list, you see all the stuff you flagged, but if it's sold, it's red, or if the price changed, you see it. And the cool thing about it is it's like sign in with MetaMask. So you're like authenticating with your crypto wallet, flagging these things completely private. No one else can even view them, like unless they hack you. And then, because right now on OpenSea, you can kind of do that, but you're like harding it and it gives signal to other people. So if there's something you really like, you hard it on OpenSea, everyone else knows you like it. And it's a weird signal. So I kind of just built this for myself. And I was like, oh, I can easily, launch this. So I'm waiting on OpenSea full API access because they rate limit you until you're approved. Once I'm approved, I'm just going to push this out.
I know John McConnell's
That's
excited
awesome.
about this.
I love Drew is like doing this thing of intersection of visual dev and Web3, and we're just all about it. It's so good. It's so good.
I love it. I'm working on one. It's probably, I might be the only person that would use this, but like while I'm working throughout the day, like let's say I'm working in Bildr, right? And I'm going to be in it for a couple hours. I have the Twitter FOMO, but I know better than to go to Twitter, because if I go to Twitter, there goes my couple hours, right? And so if you guys have seen like, the news ticker at the bottom of the news site where it just scrolls across, I want to create an extension that's just a Twitter ticker, and the tweets are just, my timeline's just scrolling by and I can see it there as I work, but I don't have to like lose all my time to Twitter. So that's going to be my project.
Can you add a thing? And I want this, and I want you to add a thing that's like pause for 10 minutes. Focus mode. But then automatically turn it back on, right? So it's like focus mode for 10 minutes, and then it'll start flowing again. And I don't care what happens in 10 minutes. I'm not going to go back through it. But,
y'all, that's like dangling the carrot in front of you. Why?
Because the carrot is really tasty, and I go to the other tab anyways, Or,
exactly. But at least
Joe
I can
DMs me, and I get pinged, and I'm like, I'm going, and now I'm there,
At least I can multitask,
Yeah.
There we go.
Y'all are funny. Does anyone else have any Chrome extension ideas that they want to chat about, or maybe like are curious or have questions on, like, hey, is this something that could be done in Bildr? Feel free to ask while these guys are in the room. And then
I did want to ask real quick about overall when you're inviting people who maybe aren't on Bildr, or who don't have a plan on Bildr, or aren't paying for the service. And I don't know how you're thinking about this moving forward, but I know right now I can invite somebody like a third-party person to come in, look at some code, do some things or whatever in a project that I have. Is that going to stay that way? Or are you planning on like setting up like an agency plan, an individual plan? Is that something you've thought about moving forward?
Yeah, we are actually onboarding agencies into agency plans right now. So if anybody's interested in doing a full-on agency plan, and some of the perks of that, we're doing some early adopter perks too for the next like 60 days, where you get a little more access and to us, and a few extra things. But the general agency plan, obviously multi-users, we'll be releasing some team features in the next couple of months where you have shared libraries, things like that. But also we're getting a lot of inbound for projects, and we're reaching out to different agencies and freelancers to pass those projects to them, depending on what the project is, the size of it, the scope of it, who we know can handle that size project. So we'll be basically sharing that deal flow. And then also on the agency plan, we're going to do a revenue share if you take that project and hand it over to your customer and they have their own Bildr account, you'll be getting a cut of whatever their execution hosting is ongoing, right? So whatever they're paying, you'll get a small cut of that. And we want to incentivize, there's two reasons for that incentivization. One is obviously money, right? But the other one is also, if you're building for others on Bildr, we really want people to be good partners to the people they're building for. So we want to incentivize them to continue to keep that customer happy long-term and have a production environment that's successful for that customer long-term. So we like to do things with our pricing that aligns incentives. And so our plans will go along that same way. And then we also do have an enterprise plan, which we'll announce in another month or two. If you guys want details on that, if you have anything where you have where you need something like isolated hosting, for instance. Maybe you have compliance problems and you can't have it in our shared hosting environment, that kind of thing. Or if you want like multi-region hosting, where you need the data replicated, for instance, across the globe, right? Those things obviously cost more because the hosting's quite a bit more, but happy to talk about it. We're already onboarding some enterprise customers as well, where they're building, it's sort of like our, the agency that we spun Bildr out of. All of our projects required enterprise level support, account manager, that kind of thing is what we would need as an agency, because we were just doing very large projects. So we're happy to accommodate any level, any scale. And then we're also putting together, Drew could talk a little bit more about this. We're not quite ready with it yet, but the referral program. So that way, if you do invite someone else and they become a Bildr and start paying for the service, you get a small cut of that as well. I don't know if Drew, you want to elaborate on that at all? I don't know what else there's
I don't
to
even
say.
know if there's more to elaborate on. We'll probably just do, it's kind of a common scenario with like a lot of, especially if no code tools have a lot of that. So we'll probably set up with a third party at first and then have something more robust for that agency and enterprise level.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Peter, I'll answer your question real quick. Peter asked about, checking the current URL and then doing additional things based on that URL. No Code Devs is actually launching their extension in a week or two. And that's what they're doing. They basically check the URL. They do some modifications to it to say, this is where I'm on Webflow, right? Or I'm on Bildr or wherever they're at. And then they go pull content out of their Airtable database and present it to the user based on where they're at. And that could get more dynamic. I know Michael was also talking about checking to see like what is being used on this page. Like, are they using intercom? Are they using that kind of thing? Or you can check for things on the page, just learn about the page and then present them with information based on what tool they built it in, or, what it's hosted on, or what other services they use. So you can definitely do anything like that.
Awesome.
I'm happy to tell you about the Chrome extension we're planning to build. Now that Edmund's given me permission to tell you. So with Launch Stash that we've been building, the main thing that it does is it allows users to stash affiliate codes for products that they use and share them. So Mark was talking about affiliate codes for Bildr. But one of the problems that we found for our users is their ability to get their codes fast and then stash them and find them. And so we had this idea that to have a Chrome extension where if someone was on a site, say if they were on, I don't know, Card or Airtable, and say Airtable's got an affiliate code, which it does, a referral program, the Chrome extension would pop up and say, you can stash this, you can stash this referral code. And then all they would need to do then would click stash, and it would add it to their stash in Launch Stash. So that's what we were looking to do. And then when we saw what you're doing with Bildr and how quick you're making it to how quick and easy you're making it to build a Chrome extension, and then to see what Michael's just done, it's just given us the blueprint of what we wanted to do. So yeah, trying to contain our excitement because it's almost exactly what we need. So excited to do the course.
What do you mean, Lee? Do you know how excited I am to not have like a bunch of random miscellaneous screenshots for referral codes like stashed somewhere in my downloads folder?
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you.
Exactly. That's the problem we're trying to solve, and having a Chrome extension will get users there faster.
Oh my God, are we all just going to get really organized?
And the fact that Mark said of the Safari and on mobile, that's blown my mind. But yeah,
I want to see so their iOS 15 is supposed to enable those extensions, but I haven't played with it yet. I have iOS 15 on my iPad, and I just haven't gone in there and messed with it yet to see how their extensions are going to work. I'm assuming it's going to be the same as the Safari extensions themselves, the regular Safari extensions for the Mac. But yeah, I think opening up extensions to mobile is a really big deal. I think that's going to be a really powerful thing.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure it's only Safari that's doing it right now, but I would assume Chrome's going to follow. I would assume Edge will follow, and we'll see how it goes. But I mean, why do it if you're not providing the same kind of access? So I would assume Safari is going to do the same kind of thing. So we'll see.
Yeah. Very cool.
Exciting stuff. All right. Does anyone have any last questions? Mark, did you want to show data, or do we need to wrap?
We'll just
time?
launch it.
Okay, we'll just launch
I'll
it.
just release it instead. Yeah.
Awesome. If anyone has any last remaining questions or anything, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, quick update. We're working on some things. Mark is doing the built-in data UI where you can create data, et cetera, see all of your data in a project. It's looking really awesome. And we're doing a few other things. We just did a little micro release. I think it was last week. I didn't chat about it or anything because it was so small. It just had like a few bug fixes and some speed optimization stuff. But yeah, we'll continue on that path and then get everything that we're working on tested and then rolled out to you guys. That'll include the new onboarding, the smoother pattern import stuff, and I think some other things that I can't remember off the top of my head. But
copy paste styling, I'm using it and I love it. Copy paste style.
Are we getting that in?
It's already in. It's already ready. I just decided like 2 weeks ago. I was on a page where I had applied all this styling in line a long time ago. It's like, oh man. So it was all the same styling. I like duplicated the element over and over again. So I went back to the first one and made a style class out of all that. And then I was going to have to go back to like 40 elements and like manually delete and add and so I was like, I think it'll be faster for me to create a new feature in Builder and just use that instead. So I went and just made it to where when you copy an element, when you go to paste, there'll be a new paste icon when we do this next release, and it's like paste with CSS, and it just overwrites all the styling to match the styling of the copied element. And I've already been using it a lot. I was surprised at how much I use it actually. Because it's just one of those things where like when you're building, you're kind of going fast, and then you want to go back and clean up at some point, and going back and doing that cleanup, it just takes time. So this makes it much faster.
Remember at the beginning of the call where I was like, this is Mark, our founder. And then I was like, you'll probably just end up seeing who he is and what he's about during the call. This is the kind of stuff. It's like, oh, it's going to take me too much to do this thing for myself. Why don't I just go make something and then it'll help everyone else? That's the basis of Mark. Well, cool. I look forward to writing the release notes on that. So yeah, I think that's it, y'all. I think we can close up this call. I will get it uploaded to our YouTube channel and then create a community post. And yeah, and then we can, if anyone has any questions on Chrome extensions, like reach out to us. And then I will also I chatted Michael's Notion doc for the course. And then later today, I'll upload into like the actual Builder lessons where you can go step by step and all that. But yeah, thank you so much for joining today. And I hope you'll have a wonderful weekend. Appreciate the good conversation.
Bye. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
Later, everybody.
Bye.